Welcome to Dory Cote on Shamanism, a weekly podcast that explores one theme in shamanism throughout each month. Get comfortable, have a seat, and let's get started.
Welcome to this podcast in which we're going to talk about how shamanism, poverty, and food equality may work together.
Dory, I know that you charge money for most of your teaching programs and for those who seek your healing gifts. How do you and other shamanic practitioners help those who do not have the financial resources to see you?
It is true that, of course, as a shamanic practitioner who, supports herself through the work of seeing clients and also through teaching others, that I charge money. And that is often a topic, within the shamanic community itself, and also sometimes with clients or students. If one looks back again at, ancestral times, the shaman would have been completely taken care of by the community. People lived in small villages, tribes, communities, and the shaman, whoever he or she was, would be taken care of. Their house would be built, the food would be prepared, it would be delivered to their door. They never had to be concerned about clothing or care for themselves in any kind of way. That was the way the community contributed to them. We don't live in those times anymore, and so we have to create the best possible way we can be, spiritual leaders and spiritual advisors and healers, and also support ourselves. So money is the acceptable form of exchange in today's culture, and that's the way that has evolved. Now, myself as a shamanic practitioner, and also many shamanic, I must say, I don't think I know a shamanic practitioner who has integrity, who doesn't also do a lot of work pro bono or through some other means of exchange in order to support the people who do not have the financial capability of paying for services. So there are many ways that can be done. There are some practitioners do bartering. I personally do not do that. I would far prefer to work with somebody without charging them any money at all rather than do bartering. That's just my own personal preference. There have been times when, somebody comes to see me and I'm seeing them pro bono and they bring me some vegetables, or they bring me, a jar of pickles or something from their home, and I always appreciate that, but I don't require it. So I find a balance for myself in my practice, where I typically have, a percentage of my practice in which I'm seeing people without charging them. And because I've been in practice for a long time and I have a very vibrant practice, I can do that and still support myself without being wealthy in any kind of way, but also not being, not lacking and, not being able to pay my own bills and take care of my own responsibilities. And so, it's a very individual thing. And yet, by the same token, to answer the question, I do know that every reputable practitioner that I know of who is working from a place of integrity never closes the door to somebody who really, really, really needs healing work. And we do everything within our own community to make that happen.
You had mentioned this in our psychopomp discussion earlier in a podcast, where it was an ethic that when you saw something, that a soul that needed moving, that it was your responsibility to help them when you could.
Yes, that's absolutely true. That's part of being of service. And it is, of course, we never get paid for that, because the last I knew, people who are deceased don't have money. But it is a part of the responsibility one takes on when walking in these shoes.
How do you as a shamanic practitioner make peace with rampant poverty, degradation of humans and animals, and inequality around access to food?
It's certainly not an easy thing to make peace with, and it is a very deep, heartfelt wound to see, to observe, to know, to just even know about the rampant poverty and lack of resources around food that is occurring across the globe. It's not just here in the United States. In fact, food inequality is a far bigger problem in other countries. To make peace with it, one can only go to a place of transmuting. Again, I talk about transmuting a lot here, but it is really the only way that I can stay in a place of not going insane or not going not going to the other extreme of being worried and chaotic about what I'm observing, but rather going back to that center place that we talked about last week of maintaining a balance around seeing perfection in all beings and trusting and knowing that the spirit in all is divine and that everything is light in the end, and knowing that there is some, I really want to be very cautious about words here because I don't want to sound trite about this. I don't want to say, oh, well, there's some purpose behind people starving to death, because there certainly is not. The only purpose that's being served around that is the pockets of the people who are, allowing that to happen. However, at the same time, it is not possible to be that hollow bone, to stand in that place of calm and peace and feeding calm and peace out into the world if a practitioner gets wound up and overly stimulated by what is happening in the external world. So again, we have opinions, we write letters, we send our money, we do everything we can to create a more harmonious, balanced world in which everybody has adequate food, and yet at the same time maintain that still point, which is the place of filling the world with light in the hope that, and trusting wholeheartedly, truly, it's more than hope, it's like trusting wholeheartedly that by doing that, we create a massive grid that ultimately will filter down into all beings, and we will create, we will dream the new dream, we will weave the new web, and there will be peace and harmony and goodwill on earth.
So you're discussing reciprocity and how nature seeks to find balance in all things. Given the huge imbalance in our world around access to healthy food, how can we be in a state of reciprocity with our food?
Without a doubt, there is a huge imbalance around food equality. And there is also, a tremendous amount of damage that is being done to the way food is being produced, particularly in the Western world, with poisons and pesticides and herbicides and so on. And so again, how do I find balance? The way I find balance is I do what I can in my own small world. I create good food. I support a local farm that is growing organic vegetables. I put my money there so that they can keep doing what they're doing and filter that out to people who don't have the financial resources to buy good food. For instance, the farm that I belong to, which is here in Maine, takes SNAP benefits. They take food stamps. So, and they actually give people more for their food stamps than what they would ordinarily be entitled to have on a dollar per dollar value. I like supporting that farm because I know that my money is being multiplied. And not only do I benefit by having wonderful, juicy, organic vegetables all the time, year round, but I'm benefiting those who, have less in the way of financial resources and helping to fill their bellies with healthy food. That's the path that I believe we all need to take. We as individuals need to find a way, some small way, that we can make a difference. Because when we look at the whole picture, when we look at the entire globe and the suffering that is happening around food inequality, it's so overwhelming that it can make us frozen, static, unable to act in any kind of way. Like, how do I put one dropper in the well in order to build, the resources? So I believe it really all begins with the individual and how we, take our own small action to make a difference and know that by doing that, we create a synergy or an energy that moves outward, like the pebble in the water that we all talk about. The pebble creates a lot of ripples, and those ripples then create more ripples, and through that we will ultimately make a huge difference.
You bring a spiritual awareness to conscious spending and to conscious action.
Exactly. Conscious spending. That's a really good way to put that, Jill. It is about being aware and supporting those who are also doing good in the world.
Because our money is also energy going out into the world.
No kidding. Absolutely. Yep.
So the media has written a lot recently about non-GMO foods and GMO foods and the impact on the environment. What is a shamanic perspective on the energetics of food that are genetically modified? Do you believe that GMO foods alter the energy or vibration of a human or an animal who is consuming GMOs regularly?
Yes, I do. Food has energy, and the energy that is created in something that we consume by virtue of the soil that it's grown in, the nutrients that it receives, and the love vibration that is used in raising it, all make a huge difference in what happens within our own body when we consume it. And so in our country here in the United States at this time, we have, this mass production of food in an attempt to create big business out of agriculture. And in the process, we've really gone off into left field here and created food that is no longer nourishing the soul, never mind the body. And so when we add, harmful chemicals and we think that we are God and we can create a better food than what the earth and the nutrients of the earth and the sun and the water can create, then we've really gone askew here. So consuming large quantities of, or even smaller quantities of GMO foods or foods that are grown in big agribusiness is harmful in the end to our village, not just us as individuals and our own vibration, but we're supporting a vibration that is not helpful to us. It's not helpful to the plants. It's not helpful to the animals who are eating those foods. It's a destructive path. And so, as a shamanic practitioner, and I'm sure that there are many other practitioners out there like myself who work from a place of integrity and passion and love of all beings, what I do personally is I do everything in my power to not consume GMO foods, even though that can be challenging because we don't always know what we're getting at the grocery store or, in a restaurant. And I support, going back to what we talked about in the last question, I support the local farmer who is producing non-GMO, healthy, organic, grown food in their own soil. And I believe in this country, we are finding that there's a desire to go back in that direction. The local farm or your own backyard, small garden, growing vegetables and working with the soil in your own backyard, loving the earth, which is the sustenance of who we are as human beings. If we don't take care of the earth, the soil, the air, the water, then we will make ourselves extinct. There will be no life. There will be no bees to pollinate the plants, and then our food source will suffer. And in the end, we will render ourselves no longer a viable species on Earth. That's huge, and it can be all-consuming. It can make a person mad if they think about it too much. Mad in the sense of crazy. So again, bring it down to the personal. Do what you can as an individual. Support people who are doing good work, who are taking steps, concrete steps to make a difference about food and who has access to food, healthy food. And in that way, we can render our voice and our actions without getting overly stimulated by the chaos and the worry and the pain of observing what is happening in our village, the world.
This completes our questions on shamanism, poverty, and food equality. Do you have anything else you want to add at this time?
No, I feel complete about that topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Dory Cote on Shamanism. We'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, reactions, and questions. Come on over to dorycote.com and join the conversation. And tune in next week for more on this subject, or next month for a new subject. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes or sign up on dorycote.com to receive notices when the podcasts are posted. That's Dory, D-O-R-Y, and Cote, C-O-T-E.com. Drumming and rattling by Dory Cote and Terry Morgan. Technical assistance and audio production by JillHackett.com. And this is Susan Savelle, wishing you many blessings in your life. We hope to have you join us next time.